You're listening to Heroes in the Moment. What's up, heroes? I'm Michael.
And I'm Nathan.
And today, what if? So here's the deal.
Come on.
We're going to talk about what if.
Yeah.
So season 3 of What If just came out. And it did episode by episode, episode day for the Christmas season, just like it did last year's season 2. And what if season 3 was it's up there as one of the single worst Marvel projects I've ever seen.
What if Marvel hired a bad team of writers with terrible ideas to make a crappy season?
That's what happened.
What? That's not a what if. That's reality.
That's reality, dude. That's reality, which is absolutely crazy. So
it hurts.
What we're doing today is we're going to talk a little bit. We're not going to go into like in previous seasons of what we've done in What If is we break it down and we talk about like our favorite episodes and we talk about the series and all that stuff. We'd rate it 1 through 10. We're not doing that entirely because season 3 is an absolute joke. So what we're doing instead is we're doing What If we rewrote What If, and that Nathan and I, we came up with some what if scenarios of our own that we think would have been far more interesting to watch and to see realized than what they end up giving us in the show. And now we're dissing on season 3, but this was a problem the show had from the beginning. Season 1 though was good. I will admit, season 1 had some great stories, even though the ones we didn't ask for, they were still interesting. They were still like watchable, right? Season 2, not as great, but still has some good ones. It still has some like
there's an occasional good episode. Yeah.
Season 3 though, absolutely terrible. There's like one episode that was actually decent, and I wouldn't even say good. I would say decent.
Yeah, man, it hurts. I was such a big fan of the first season.
Yeah,
I had great memories with it. I'd come home. This was before I was married. Sometimes my now wife would have made like pasta or something, and we'd sit down and we watch an episode. But I love this art. I love this animation. These are cool storylines.
It's such a cool storyline.
It's a shame to see how
absolutely
how it devolved.
It really, really is. Now I'm going to take a look at. I just want to read to you because you haven't even seen season 3. I've seen season 3, and I told him not even to watch it. I'm going to be honest, listeners, because it's not worth his time. It wasn't worth my time, and it's not worth his time.
Michael sent me some funny texts about it.
I saved him the time. So this is the reason we're kind of going into it and talking about it. So I'm going to read you guys and read to you the what if titles of season 3 and talk a little bit about how bad they were in the concept. So really quickly.
This will be a first for me, so I'm excited to react to some of these.
So episode 1 was what if the Hulk fought the Mech Avengers?
What if the Hulk fought the Mech Avengers?
Fought the Mech Avengers.
Is he powerful in the episode?
No, Hulk is barely in it.
So it's
basically,
then, right?
the basis of the episode is what if Bruce Banner was trying to get rid of the Hulk, that kind of storyline, which is understandable. And he essentially creates this mega gamma monster. And the Avengers, now it's the new Avengers. So it's like Sam Wilson, Shang-Chi, those kind of Avengers, Moon Knight, that come together. And they're wearing these like mechs, like suits, like technology suits. Yeah. And they literally come together like the Power Rangers. They come together like Megazord, and like all of their mechs come together to make one giant Avenger. And he says, "Avenger, assemble!" And they all like genuinely assemble. Okay. And they fight this gigantic Godzilla-looking gamma monster. It's supposed to be like the Hulk,
but it's not the Hulk.
But it's not the Hulk.
It's
and
Godzilla,
then Hulk comes
really.
in the end and drinks like more gamma and like becomes this monster-looking thing and goes and attacks it. It's a terrible episode. Terrible.
When you first said the title, I actually got really excited because I was picturing like Age of Ultron.
None of that.
Tony in the suit fighting Hulk.
Nope, it was none of that. It was the new Avengers as mechs.
That would have been a cool idea.
Could have been, but it wasn't. And it was just terrible. I think that one got a 5 on IMDb. 5
really?
Something.
Okay.
Next episode is what if Agatha went to Hollywood?
That doesn't sound like a terrible idea. It's not something we asked for, but it sounds funny.
It wasn't. So Agatha Harkness, Agatha Catherine Hahn, went to Hollywood to star in Howard Stark's comes up with this film production studio, and Kingo from Eternals, remember him? Kingo, the Bollywood star. Yeah. Bollywood, he comes in and they do a movie together about how they fight a Celestial in the movie that they create. Okay. And all of this comes to reality, and they actually do fight a Celestial.
So the movie turns into reality?
The basis of the movie wasn't, but they actually, Agatha and Kingo are actually talking reality when they're filming on movie. Okay. And then it becomes a movie and like filmed. It's I don't even know how to explain it because it's so bad. But that was the second episode.
That does sound bad, yeah.
It was super bad. The next third episode is what if the Red Guardian stopped the Winter Soldier? This episode was actually a good one. This one was a decent one. Because this essentially...
Was he cool in it? My
He was
Pookie
cool.
Bear.
He was really good in it. I do recommend you watch that one.
Okay.
I recommend that one to you.
He beat my king.
So what? No, what happened is Red Guardian stopped Winter Soldier from killing Howard Stark and the mother, and that's actually a cool what if concept. What if Bucky never killed the Starks? That's cool. I would pay for that. I would like to see that. It's a cool concept.
Cool. Yeah,
but the concept of it was Red Guardian prevented him from killing them, and then they go on this buddy cop like adventure. Huh. Okay, it was a little comedic, a little watered down by David Harbour's comedicness as Red Guardian, but at the end of the day, it was decent and an actual feasible question.
Was there some good fight scenes in
there
it?
There was some cool fight scenes.
Okay.
So I recommend it.
Okay.
It still wasn't great. I think
Also
it got like a 6.5 on IMDb.
Okay, so maybe watch episode
wasn't
3.
Great, but I would recommend it.
Okay.
I think you would enjoy it. The next one is what if Howard the Duck got hitched? So this is what if Howard the Duck and Darcy Lewis got married.
I just feel like animals and humans should be a no-no.
Yeah, no across any board.
Because Howard the Duck is a full animal.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And you tell me Darcy gives birth to an egg?
Yeah.
Where does the egg come from?
Yeah, I don't know. And it's a completely original character,
I know
completely
he's a
original
duck,
story.
But you are a human.
Yeah. It was so bad. This was a terrible episode.
So it's like a baby Jesus that everyone wants to kill.
Yeah, everybody wants that egg because they think it's like the new basis of the most powerful being in the galaxy or something, and everybody wants it.
Jack is what you're saying.
It literally is Jack.
Jack.
Yeah, that episode was terrible. Not even a feasible
I'm not
question.
gonna lie, yo. That's a perverted mind. That's like fan fiction.
It is terrible. The next episode's okay. This one, the title's great, but then I'll talk about what if the emergence destroyed the Earth. So this is what if like the eternal celestial, like the thing that lives in the planet, actually destroyed the Earth.
Okay,
cool concept, potential. That's a what if question for sure. But the whole basis is they give Riri Williams, Ironheart, as the main character of this episode. They made her the main character of this episode, and like as if her and this team of misfits. It's kind of like this almost Blade Runner-esque Mad Max kind of scenario where this group of people like Okoye and Wong and these people like come together to stop Quentin Beck Mysterio, who like takes over the world of White Vision. And it's an interesting concept, but was executed very poorly. Yeah. Wasn't very, this was okay episode, but executed very badly.
Then again, it's not a question we ask ourselves, what if?
Not really. What if the emergence destroyed the Earth is a question, but the way they executed it wasn't the question. Yeah. If that makes sense. Mm-hmm. The next episode was What If 1872. So the basis of this, and this was actually my favorite episode of the series. Okay. Even though it wasn't a question
Columbus
we asked
sailed
for.
the ocean blue.
That was 1492. But thank you. But What If 1872 is the basis is Shang-Chi and Kate Bishop are teamed up in the Wild West as the Ten Rings and Hawkeye, who go against the Hood in the Wild West. And what? It sounds really weird.
The Hood?
And doesn't make sense. Like the Hood, this is going to be a character not even introduced yet in Ironheart. The villain of Ironheart, Anthony Ramos, is playing.
Was he voicing him?
No. Okay. So it was a completely different thing.
Is his hood red?
Yeah. So
I'm sensing a potential crossover.
So what if this was actually my favorite episode, even though it wasn't a question, it wasn't even needed or anything. It had some interesting points because it had that Wild West vibes. Hawkeye, Kate Bishop's Hawkeye, and Shang-Chi actually fit really well in this world, which I didn't think they would. Yeah. And it actually kind of really worked well, but it still wasn't a question asked. And then the next two were two-parter is What If the Watcher Disappeared? And What If was the final episode.
Okay, What If the Watcher Disappeared is a cool concept.
It's a cool concept, executed very poorly. Okay. And it makes sense as a series finale, part 1 and part 2. But the essential basis is the Watcher, the other Watchers, the Eminence and all these other Watchers.
Who are the Eminence?
So that's like the Watchers over Watsu.
Over Jeffrey Wright's?
Over Jeffrey Wright's Watchers. Okay. Because his job is to watch and observe the multiverse, right? Okay. And the basis is he has constantly been interacting with the people in the multiverse, saving people or doing this instead of just observing, because his job's just to observe. So they're taking him out of the picture and saying you can no longer do this job.
He's been promoted to customer.
Exactly. So the basis is that this team, Captain Carter, Kahori, Birdie, and then Storm, the only good part of this, called the Exiles, come together to try to save him.
The X-Files, okay.
Exiles. No, X-Files. I see what you did. The Exiles.
The Exiles, okay.
And these four, two of which of those characters, Kahori and Birdie, are completely created for this show. Birdie is the adult version of Darcy and Howard the Duck's kid. So
how powerful is Birdie?
she flies around and shoots fire out of her mouth. Okay, so that's all she does.
Wow.
And Storm, Wielding Mjolnir, and their job is to go and find the Watcher, and they get Infinity Ultron to help get to him or whatever and rescue him. And then the final
He's
episode,
being held like in a jail or something. What's going on?
Yeah, basically in the fifth dimension.
Dang.
And they have to get to the fifth dimension. And
But
then
strange, they use him at all.
eventually, but he doesn't talk. They go to his universe because he's over his universe, and there's no like they can't interact with it. I don't know, it doesn't make sense. But then the finale is what if, and that is the Watcher gives the exiles the powers of the Watcher, gives them all, they all take the oath, and they all like beat down on the Imminence. And then Captain Carter sacrifices herself and essentially becomes the Beyonder over the multiverse because she sacrificed herself.
Happen?
That's a great question because I don't even know.
Why did they? Captain Carter is an industry plant. I feel like they pushed her so hard, and like none of her storylines, besides maybe the first season, were intriguing.
Yeah, it did not make sense. It's like they keep reusing her character for no reason.
Also, this shouldn't be a hot take, but for a show called What If, I don't think it should have an overarching theme.
No,
or a finale in that sense.
I
Every
feel like
episode should be different.
Right. I feel like season 1 it worked, but the rest did not. It just did not work.
Like you're building up to this grand moment, and
Right.
you're giving us the worst possible what
worst possible what ifs and the worst
Like
possible
the
plots
only
and-
ones that I heard that were interesting were the Watcher disappearing, which I wouldn't have cared unless I had watched What If. So there's a thing for you there. And then the Red Guardian, stopping Winter Soldier. That sounds cool too. But
and that's the only basis. So
That's a bad idea.
Really, in the entirety of What If, even though season 3 was terrible, the entirety of What If, there was only a few actual what if questions we would have asked. So I'll give you those that we would have asked for. The first episode, the first season. What if Captain Carter were the first Avenger? That actually, okay, so Peggy Carter becomes the super soldier instead of Steve Rogers. Sure.
Yeah.
That's a potential what if.
especially if you like buff ladies.
Yeah, so absolutely, that's a potential. The next one, what if the world's lost his mightiest heroes? So what if the Avengers were all killed before they could do anything? That one's a cool concept. Sure.
Yeah.
All right, the next one, what if Doctor Strange lost his heart instead of his hands? This is arguably the best episode of the series. Phenomenal, like he lost Christine instead of his hands. And then he goes off and tries to figure out and becomes this
That's
super
kind of like the
crazy.
Mr. Freeze episode in the animated series.
This is brilliant. This was great. This
Sad
was
tearjerker.
an absolutely cool concept. The next one is kind of, but not really. What if Killmonger rescued Tony Stark? So what if Killmonger was being in the military and he saved Tony Stark from the fate of getting his heart transplant and all this stuff, and he's trying to take over Wakanda and all of this other stuff. Like, kind of, but not really.
Yeah.
Okay. The next one, what if Thor were an only child? Is a question. Like, what if Odin,
I liked it.
Yeah. What if Odin never, saved him from Jotunheim and he stayed with the Frost Giants and stuff, but they turned it into a whole like party Thor, and it was just kind of weird. And then the last one of this season, what if Ultron won? Absolutely. That's a fantastic, and I think that was the best episode of the series besides the Doctor Strange one.
I like
Phenomenal.
the Hank Pym one.
We haven't
Where
got
he
to that.
fights
That's season
the
2.
Avengers. Oh, that's right.
But what if Ultron won? Super cool. Ultron wins. He becomes Vision. He gets the Infinity Stones. All that. Great. Season 2, going over there. Even less. Season 2, what if Peter Quill attacked Earth's mightiest heroes? So that
that.
one was good because it's like, what if Yondu never picked up Peter Quill? He stayed on Earth, and those Avengers of that time period in the 1980s came together, like Hank Pym and Howard Stark and all of those characters, Peggy Carter, came together to form this team. That one's cool.
Okay.
Okay, the next one, what if Iron Man crashed into the Grand Master? Absolutely, right?
Yeah.
What if Tony Stark never came back out of the portal from the missile in Battle of New York? Absolutely cool concept.
That's a cool concept.
And it was a good episode. All right. And then that's where it ends, I think, in season 2. And then season 3, the only one was what if the Red Guardian stopped the Winter Soldier, so the Winter Soldier never killed the Starks.
That's atrocious for 3 seasons.
Yeah, that's atrocious. It's really bad. That's really bad statistics. Yeah.
Man.
It's really unfortunate, is what it is. And they gave us episodes that about and created new characters we don't care about, don't know about, don't.
I
wanna
wonder if
know.
they had like directors and writing changes.
I don't know what their
Certainly seems
thoughts
like
was because it was not executed well or
Yeah.
properly, which is unfortunate. So what me and Nathan are going to do now is we're going to give you some what if questions that we actually would like to know about and the concept of them that we think could have been developed into a better season of what if. So we'll go back and forth sharing you. We got 5 each what if examples. that we're going to share with you and just go based off that. So you want to start?
Yeah, I'll start. My first one is, what if Bucky got picked to be Cap instead of Sam? I think that's interesting.
Absolutely.
Especially after seeing this show. I'm not going to sit here and argue that it should have been Bucky. He has a lot of trauma in his past. He carries a lot of baggage. But I think that would have been a really, really cool idea to explore.
Right.
Especially since at least most of the fan base that I saw were pushing for that. Sebastian Stan, he's cool. Let's make him Cap. But I don't know. That would have been a cool idea, I feel like.
I completely agree. The idea of Bucky Barnes becoming the next Captain America and Steve handling the shield.
Considering he was the right-hand man for so long, grew up with him. He knew Cap better than anybody. He had almost the same formula, so...
And I think you could have had a whole good plot what if episode with that, because the government would not have supported that at all because of his past.
And I think the past would have a big thing to do with the episode, because I think redemption would be the big factor.
Absolutely, I agree.
He's seeking forgiveness and redemption now that he's named the new Cap. I think that would have been a really cool idea to explore.
I agree. I think that is a super cool concept. All right, my next what if is, what if Captain America signed the Sokovia Accords and Iron Man did not? So it's kind of the opposite spectrum for Civil War.
Yeah.
So what if Captain America was actually like, okay, we need to sign this and all that good stuff.
So you think the entire team would be the same, or would be
it'd be different, because if Captain America signed the Accords, War Machine would also still sign, and this would also still sign.
So you're just swapping those two.
Just swapping those two characters pretty much. Maybe like some others, like Sam would go with Captain America, or somebody else would go with Iron Man, or they change that or the other. But what would have happened? How would a Civil War been different? Because the whole big basis was the Sokovia Accords, but at the same time was Winter Soldier and like his basis and like what he was doing and trying to rescue him. So if Captain America would have signed, then how would he have helped Bucky? Would he have? Would he have not? What would have been how would have Civil War been different? Would Civil War even have happened even if Iron Man didn't sign? Would have Iron Man just left and gone on his own? What would have happened?
Yeah.
Is a big question that could have been a feasible one to see.
I like it.
As a potential one, like the opposite of Civil War, would have been kind of cool.
My next one is, I'm sticking with Bucky here. It's, what if Bucky killed Black Widow? Winter Soldier, she mentions that he shot her right through her waist. I believe so. I would think if Bucky, had killed Black Widow, I think we very possibly could have seen a very much angrier Steve. Maybe a Steve who was out searching for vengeance. Yeah, possibly. Of course, you'd have to know her at that time.
Winter Soldier killed Black Widow during Captain America Winter Soldier, or like prior to that in the mission?
But there was already a relationship established there. Okay, because at that time, Black Widow didn't have much connections. Yeah, right. So if he had killed her then, there wouldn't have really been anything about it. But if that relationship was there and he had killed her, I think it would be really cool to see the outcry, especially from the more reserved characters and the characters who represent,
right? Because you would have a very team. Angry
Cap.
Hulk
at
Winter Soldier compared to Captain America being like, hey, let's not, and then having to face the Hulk.
I seen Iron Man would have been cool. And then again, it just plays into, you have an assassin and a spy in Winter Soldier. So I don't know. I feel like that would have been a really cool concept to see.
Yeah, I like that. A
little made up.
My next one I've got is, what if Ego, Hela, and Odin were still alive during Avengers Infinity War? Big basis that is like, so we know Ego died in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, Hela and Ragnarok, Odin and Ragnarok. So what if instead of their deaths,
ancient one too,
they die, and you could even add the ancient one into that as well.
Odin, even
what would have been the difference? Would have happened?
They're taking Thanos to Pound Town.
Oh yeah, Thanos is not a chance.
Hela alone would have.
Ego's the big question, because if Ego didn't die, would he have successfully taken over the Earth? There's a lot of questions there without their deaths that would have happened. But like, even if you just had, what if Hela was there?
Or
just Odin, or just
if Ego was still alive, that would mean Star-Lord, would he still be?
He would still be a half Celestial.
So he would still be able, maybe alone, to solo Thanos. Yeah. Maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know how that
so there's
works,
just a lot of cool concepts, because a lot of theories were saying before is, if Thanos was waiting for these characters to die before he made any moves.
The way I see it, they could have killed him, and then it would have been a struggle for power between those characters.
Well, I think Hela would have wanted the Infinity Gauntlet. I think she would have wanted it. Like, it would have been her goal. But her goal wouldn't have been to destroy half the universe. Her goal would have just been, she's the Queen of Death, or the goddess of Death. So she just would want to be on top with it. So it's just that whole, like, what would have happened, the Hela versus Thanos kind of thing, Odin versus Thanos. There's just a lot of cool concepts they could have done. They could have even done this in multiple episodes of, like, what if Thanos was facing here? Maybe Thanos, before he even had to go for the stones, maybe he had to one-up these characters some way. I don't know. It's just a cool concept to think about. There's a lot of scenarios that you could put into play.
Yeah, I love that. I'd love to see the fallout, especially between Ego and Hela. That would be cool.
That would be cool.
My next one was, what if Steve stayed in the present?
Ooh,
You know?
that's a good one that I think should have happened.
I don't.
What if he didn't go back in time?
What if he didn't go back in time to, live
stayed.
out his life? Which I feel like, side note, I do feel like that was an error in writing. Throughout the movies, they had kind of established that he had come to the point where he realized, I'm never going to get this back.
No.
And then they're like, by the way, he is.
Yeah.
So seeing him, what even would have happened, man? I mean, the Avengers would have continued.
They would have continued. Captain America's still been
be the
there.
guy, especially
There's
after
still been a lot of fun.
Iron Man's passing.
Yeah.
But yeah, from that point on, it's just speculation.
Westview may not have happened. Like, he may have gone to Wanda before Westview and been like, "Hey, let's not do that."
That would have been really cool.
I mean, there's so much different scenarios that he could have interacted with the characters that kind of prevented some of the stuff that did go on.
I know.
Like Falcon and Winter Soldiers never would have happened. John Walker never would have happened.
Falcon Winter Soldier never would have happened.
Yeah.
And then, by extension, Falcon never becomes Cap.
Yep.
And
he's still just the sidekick Falcon. So I don't know. There's a lot of cool
behind
concepts.
the sidekick Bucky.
Yep. So there's a lot of cool concepts there. All right. The next question is, what if the Avengers lost the Battle of New York to Loki? Feel like that's an interesting concept. So, like, essentially the basis is Loki keeps the Tesseract, Loki keeps the Mind Stone, and Thanos would have got the Tesseract, the Mind Stone from Loki, and he would have already conquered the Earth, essentially, for Thanos.
Yeah.
Because that was the basis, is Thanos sent Loki as his agent to kind of get intel and get information, and gave him the Mind Stone to use as his ability to get that Tesseract and to use it on this Earth. And then, of course, Loki's ego spiraled, and that's how his whole situation happened. But if he would have won, and the Chitauri would have won, what would have happened with Thanos? He would have already had 2 stones, so where would it base it there? Would it made it easier for him to get the other stones, or what would happen?
That almost would have been like part 1, of the last 2 Avengers movies.
Yeah.
If he had already beaten the Avengers and he already had 2 stones,
right?
That's
because the whole basis is, at the end of the Avengers movie, we see Thanos for the first time standing up and saying, "Fine, I'll do it myself." Right?
Yeah.
Or no, that was an Age of Ultron when he picked up, or I can't remember, but he was still saying, like, I can need to do this myself. So maybe it's just he gets 2 Infinity Stones right off the bat. What happens after that with because the Avengers are no longer there, and none of the other, like, because the Avengers are no longer there, the extended Avengers are no longer there, like Falcon, Vision, these characters, because Ultron never would have been created. So, like, Vision never would have been created. Scarlet Witch would have never been created because the Mind Stone was gone, so that she never would have got her power. Like, there's so much, like, the extension of the Avengers would never have happened. So he would just had to get the Time Stone from the Ancient One and then go off and get the other ones.
That would have been a cool
It would have been
fight.
a cool concept. So
that would have been really cool.
So I don't know.
I like it. That'd be crazy. The first time you see the Avengers, they're getting their butt kicked in. That'd be cool.
Yep. So I don't know. There's a lot of cool concepts with that. All right, you.
My fourth one, I'm going, what if Wanda didn't lose her family?
Like in Westview.
What if she didn't lose her family?
What if she got to keep Tommy and Billy and Vision?
Obviously, the tragedy of the bombings and her losing her family eventually spirals, and that's how...
you're talking about not like the family she creates, but like her actual parents.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Because, losing the family is essentially how she becomes...
Scarlet Witch.
Powered, right? But through the power... What is it the Nazis,
the Mind
right?
Stone? Well, technically the Nazis.
Technically, Hydra using the Mind Stone to create the monster.
The basis was that, like, it just enhanced her because she already had that abilities and powers, but it just enhanced her. But yeah, it would have been a completely different ballgame, that's for sure.
I mean, like, low key, you could be looking at just possibly her living out her days as a normal civilian.
Yeah.
Like I said, she would still have those powers, but at the same time, she would be, I feel like, a lot less impressionable if she had never. She'd be a lot more stable,
She would be.
She would have been a lot more resistant to people trying to change her, use her for good, or for bad. So that might be a more boring story.
But an interesting one nonetheless.
I think it would be very interesting.
Or maybe you could twist that around to make it like, what if she never lost Tommy and Billy, and after Westview, out of Vincent, she got to keep those kids because Doctor Strange Multiverse Madness never would have happened, and all of this stuff, and like she wouldn't have became the Scarlet Witch villain. She would just kept it. Like, there's potential.
Yeah. What if she never lost the kids that were never real?
Yeah. Yeah, she got to keep him. So I don't know.
Wild.
I don't know. The next one, my fourth one, is what if Tony Stark never came out of the cave in Iron Man 1? So he died in the cave, never becomes Iron Man in the first place.
If he died, what would have happened?
A lot, because the whole concept of the Avengers was based off him originally. I mean, you could argue Captain Marvel later, but it was based off him. So the Avengers would have looked completely different. Mm-hmm. Captain America would have been the natural born leader. And then you had all these other characters added in. You wouldn't have the Iron Man effects. You wouldn't have had him. He wouldn't have created Ultron. You would have had, he wouldn't have come up with a concept to defeat Loki in and of itself. The missile, there's just so much that impact that he's had on the MCU. The MCU wouldn't be what it was. It'd be completely different if Tony Stark never came out of that stave. So
I wonder what the consequences would be for Stark Industries, right? For the
Obadiah Stane would have
for the
took over.
weapons, and what Obadiah Stane would have become like as a supervillain almost.
He would have been like this kind of Lex Luthor type, right? Because
I think that would be the most interesting in that case.
He would have been in charge of Stark Industries. Ironmonger never would have been created because he wouldn't have been able to create the arc reactor that Tony did in the cave. But he would have been this Lex Luthor type owner of Stark Industries, creating these billion-dollar weapons and selling them not only to American militaries but to foreign militaries as well.
Yeah.
So he would have just been raking in the money, creating these world-destroying weapons. So it is an interesting concept.
I like that one. That one's really cool.
That one's cool.
And my last one is, what if Strange didn't give up the Time Stone in Infinity War?
It's a great one.
So essentially he says, here you go. You can have Iron Man, but I'm not giving up this stone.
Right. So Iron Man would have died.
Iron Man would have died, obviously. So you see, I don't know how the rest of that specific battle would have played out.
I think more than likely Thanos would have killed all the characters there, and then he would have to search the galaxy for the Time Stone and the characters that could be created to go with that. Is because he'd have to find the Time Stone in a way. And how would he be able to do that? Because he would have killed all the characters.
But I don't think he ever would have, is the thing.
I know.
Because I think Strange would have had it so well. So I think seeing Iron Man's death would have enraged the Avengers. I would have loved to see, as cool as the fight is with Doctor Strange, I imagine the anger that would, just penetrate their hearts would have been that much more powerful in their fight against. So I could see, in that time period, before,
they still would have won, though.
Before the snap, just how much worse and, just how much more of a spiral the Avengers would have gone down on.
So the basis of Iron Man, probably, because we know Doctor Strange saw 14 million futures, only one they won.
Yeah.
So probably the base of it is Iron Man would have died, and then he would have tortured Strange until he got the stone somehow.
See, I don't know if Strange would break.
That's the thing.
They said Strange was the best of us.
So he would have to figure out some way to get that stone, and he would have. It's just a matter of how, and that would be the writing concept. How does Thanos get that?
And the disarray of the Avengers without
without their anchor. Yeah, that's cool.
I think would be a cool idea.
That is cool. All right, the number one, and this is not coming from mine. This is coming from the community, because this was the number one asked "what if" question that I think the whole entire Marvel community asked for, and that's what if the other side disappeared in Infinity War. So instead of what we know and the ones that disappeared and blipped away. After Thanos' snap, what if Iron Man would have disappeared? What if Captain America? What if the original Avengers disappeared? What if Ant-Man disappeared? All these characters, and then all these other characters stayed, like Scarlet Witch, Black Panther, Falcon. These characters stayed, and the opposite disappeared.
Yeah, they're screwed. If I'm being honest.
Well, they have heavy hitters though. They have Scarlet Witch. They have, all these.
Yeah, but they need a brilliant mind, and the closest thing they would have would be Black Panther.
Yeah,
to figure out freaking time travel.
Yeah, they wouldn't be. It'd be hard to figure out time travel. That's for sure. They'd have to find some sort of way, some sort of field to do that. The Guardians of the Galaxy would have still been there. Peter Parker Doctor Strange would have still been there. He could have figured out time.
Maybe. I assume he'd be the natural leader of the team,
right?
With everyone else gone,
right? So it's just a matter of them coming together as this group of fallen Avengers after the real Avengers have fallen, becoming Avengers together to save them. It's a cool concept, really cool, just to see what would happen.
To their strengths.
Right, play to their strengths, and essentially just revisit and rewatch Endgame from an opposite perspective. Would be super.
Who wouldn't want that?
Who would not want to see Endgame from a different perspective? Jump 5 years later, see what these characters are alternatively doing compared to what we know our characters did.
Yeah.
It'd be cool. It'd be cool.
I love that idea.
I love it too. So much potential.
That's a whole season.
It really is.
That's a whole season.
That's a whole
right
season right there, if not even more. And even if you wanted to sprinkle in a couple fun stories, you could. But not just constant stupid stories, you know? Like if you wanted to include what if T'Challa became Star-Lord, cool, you know, and say like a completely what if we never even thought of. Sure, that's a okay concept as long as you're doing.
What the Incredibles joined.
What
Marvel.
if the Justice League came through the portals instead of the other Avengers? Yeah, I mean,
Batman comes. I'm Batman.
I'm Batman. Thanos.
Thanos is like, I am inevitable. I'm Batman.
I'm Batman. You don't even have to have the Infinity Stones.
Yeah, he just snaps his fingers.
That's the power of Batman with prep time.
Batman would have been so cool in that fight.
It'd been so cool. But anyway, like, you know, even if you did want to sprinkle in a couple of those fun episodes that we never even thought of, but keep it at the basis, questions that we asked about what we know. It would have been so much better, so much more entertaining. And I'm sure many of you guys, you listeners, could have come up with even cooler, some really cool other what if scenarios that we never gotten. Let us know. You know, send us some DMs or comment for us on Instagram, some what if scenarios of your own, and just see what happens. I don't know.
Yeah,
it could have had so much more potential.
I know, man, and it's
brutal.
It's sad. You know, it's the last. You know, they're not renewing it for any more seasons. No. So this is the last.
As far as we know.
What if we never got another season?
You
got your wish. All right, guys. Thank you all so much for listening to this episode. And as always, if you liked it, please let us know by giving us a download and a 5-star review wherever you listen to your podcast. If you guys want early access to our episodes and exclusive access to additional movie reviews, feel free to subscribe to our membership here at HQ. We also have a new feature on our episodes. We can send us a text message by following the link at the bottom of our episodes. You can submit your questions for Heroes Q&A there or just shoot us a DM on Instagram. And then finally, feel free to also check out our YouTube channel and our Instagram at Heroes in the Moment.
And as always, we love you 3000.